All right, Leanne, you want to go ahead and get us cranking, and then we can get into
Crank it
these
up.
slides. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. And thanks for joining us for our Tiny Talks with Mr. Bill today. He will be continuing from last week's presentation. But first, I just want to say that you are being recorded, and we, in order to put those in our member portal for our members to watch in the future at their convenience. And also, I am going to say something new right now. We just want to let everyone know that these Tiny Talks, everyone is our guest, and it's not necessarily an opinion of Noah's, but we welcome all guests to share everything they've been sharing. We've had some great content, and should be a good presentation this evening. So also, if you have any questions at all, if it's an urgent question that you want to ask that's pertaining to what Bill is talking about, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat. If it's something that can wait till the end, you can put it in the chat at the end, and I'm happy to ask the question. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Robin Butler. Thank you.
All right, all right. Welcome, everybody. We're so happy to have you here out on our Wednesday night or Tuesday night here in Central Florida. Wherever you are, it might not be nighttime, but we have as our guest Nabil Taha of PSE Engineering, and he started last Tuesday on some slides that we are going to complete today. We're going to start off with the trailer, talking about the engineering of the trailer. So because there's 30 slides to go through, I don't want to take a whole lot of time up, but just to let you guys know that we are really having a good time with our guests, and all of our talks are available on our website in the member portal. All you have to do is click on library or video library, and all the talks are available on there for you to review. So without further ado, Bill, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and get your slideshow going?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Robin. My name is Bill Taha. I am president and founder of Precision Structural Engineering, and I would love to share with you guys nice information about economically how to tie the tiny house to the foundation, and it will be accepted as permanent foundation. I'm just gonna start a little bit from few slides before I ended last time, and I said, why do we have to worry about foundation? Because you have to have the house and the foundation married together. You cannot leave them separated. If they are, they will cause problem like the slide that you can see. The house did slide, and sometimes it tilt and flip and do bad things. The most economical one that I'm aware of that we used a lot is the stack of unreinforced, the stack of blocks, no concrete, no rebar.
Bill, let me jump in there. I think you still need to share your screen.
Oh, I did not share screen. I'm sorry. Wow. Let's see. My apology. Yes, share screen. So that's why I have Robin to keep me online here. So
there we go.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Robin. He also got me out of trouble last time as well. I appreciate it, Robin. Okay.
And if you want to, Bill, if you want to click on the top there where it says from current slide on your slideshow, it's one says from the beginning, one says from the current slide. If you can click on that, it'll make it a little bit bigger for us to see.
All right, let's see this. Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you so much, Robin. He is my coach and teacher now for PowerPoint. So thank you. All right. Again, guys, the most economical, as I shared with you last time, is a stack of blocks, no concrete, no rebar, no nothing, just stack it. I didn't believe it when I heard it first time, but this is the way accepted by code. So you bought some blocks, and also this is for vertical load, and the tie down with soil anchor for the lateral bracing. Here's a typical, what you see it, we usually have a stack about 6 to 8 foot under the chassis. And also from this one, if you can see, we have also around the perimeter of the house. Here's how
Real quick, can you go back one slide?
yes, sure.
Bill, yeah, you can see the pier that is on underneath of the main rail, the main
Yes.
I-beam there. That is
Yes.
an 8x16 pier, and it looks like the pier that is underneath of what is probably a door. That looks like a 12x12 inch cinder block pier. So that may be that will be engineered, I'm sure, correctly. And can you tell? Do you know what these piers are setting on the ground? What's underneath of the cinder block?
Yes, there is many option, Robin. That's a good question. Many option under this stack. It could be sometimes people put a slab, but I don't recommend it for the tiny house. But sometimes you can have a concrete block pad precast, like a block. You put it underneath, and sometimes fiberglass also will work. And it's coming up. I'm going to share with you more of that thing coming up.
Okay, good.
Great. So this is a very cheap, guys, and also the advantages of being this system that you can unlock your house and they can move no problem. If you untie this strap tie down, then you can move. Again, we said it's usually around 10 foot on center. It's not only at 4 corners. That is wrong. The right is at 10 foot on center. Here is a plan of a chassis of a tiny home. And as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side. This is to stop the house from moving right and left. And also we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is parallel to the chassis to stop the house from moving up and down of the screen, if you'd like to say. Again, the tie down tied around the chassis, going down tied to a soil anchor. Again, soil anchor, you can leave it when you move, or you can take it with you if you can. So it's all temporary. It's permanent foundation, but you can move and leave it in the ground, no problem. Again, some of this tie down will be perpendicular. This is a chassis beam, perpendicular to the chassis, and this is parallel to the chassis to stop it from moving. We shared with you last time that sometimes we have hard time or not allowed to go outside the side of the tiny home. So we do that soil anchor this way with the help of what we call stabilized plate. But if you can get it straight, that will be the absolute best. We said also, if you'd like somebody to call you bad names, you can use this tie that tie to the side of the tiny house. And the disadvantage of that, it's very effective, but disadvantage is that you have to remove this part of the siding, which is people don't like it. The soil tie down, it looks something like this one, helical at the bottom. Grab the soil, and then the top it has different attachments, so you can attach your strap or cable or whatever you want. We shared with you last time that there is a many length. I prefer the long one simply because if the soil is wet, and you use short tie down, then unfortunately the soil will be loose and the anchor will not be anchoring your house. So I highly recommend you go for the longer one. Other option, which I did not share with you last time, there is also what we call soil anchor, soil screw. That's exactly like you would a screw in the wood. So it's screwed, rotated and screwed, and grab the soil. That's another option instead of the typical soil anchor. There are many kinds of them, many companies that produce the soil screws, and you can use them also as well. I don't see a problem as long as you have a good soil, relatively good soil. Now, the system for manufactured home, guys, applicable 100% to the tiny homes. And if you just search the internet, you'll find tons and tons of system to tie your tiny home to the soil, to the ground. While it is temporary from the sense that you can leave it and go, it is considered permanent from the code point of view, which is great news. We have used it tons of time, and we had no problem with the building department whatsoever. So there is a system that has some kind of a pier with legs like this one, also supported on fiberglass base here. There is other system here that here's a steel plate, if you can see it, and it goes diagonal from the ground up to tie support to your house. There is another system that called Vector system that tie them together, the two chassis, as you can see. So there are many system. Here is another soil anchor used with cable that they push it into the ground, and somehow that triangle that you see, instead of going into the ground straight, it now to rotate and lock into the ground. That also could be used. There is also the diamond pier that you can buy, and it is effective system as well, and it does not require that you pour concrete or do anything. These legs that you can see, it's usually up, and they hammer it down into the soil. So that's another system that you can use for a tiny home without pouring concrete, and you can leave this stuff in the ground or pull it or do something. It's not tied to your home anyway. Here's from this photo, you can see the pier is here, and they did not push that pipes or the rods into the ground yet, but that's how it goes. You have the pier on top of the ground, and you hammer these guys down, and it does work for both vertical and lateral. The diamond pier comes with a table, so you have a table to pick up the size of the diamond pier that you want. So it is really relatively easy if you know how much you want. I highly recommend that you read if you're gonna use the table, read the notes that written underneath, because there are definitely good way and bad way to use it. And as we say, good in, good out. If you go with good information, knowing what's the parameter, you will get good result. If you have bad in, bad out, and I don't want to say that some people say garbage in, garbage out, but that's true. You have to know what you're doing. Here is another pier from another company. That company probably called ABS Foundation. As you can see, the pier, instead of the stack of the blocks, you can use a steel pier. And as you can see, it is supported on a pier of fiberglass. That base could be concrete. Sometimes people wood. I don't recommend the wood because sometimes rot, but that base could be fiberglass, as you can see, or concrete, precast concrete, white. And
it looks like there, Bill, that you can also use cinder blocks on that type of a pad.
Oh, absolutely. Amen. Yes.
Amen. Yeah. Absolutely. So you could either use the triangular pier, or you could use the cinder block pier with that one.
With the fiberglass base, yes, absolutely true, Robin. I like Robin, even though I didn't meet him, because he's a very experienced guy. So I appreciate your feedback, Robin. Here is another way that you do it. Again, the steel pier, guys, it can be used also as well. You can buy this prefab from any manufactured home. Again, I highly recommend. We don't have too many dealers for tiny home right now, but we have tons of dealership for a manufactured home, and definitely we can use the stuff from manufactured home. We can borrow and we use it for the tiny home. Again, here is the precast block that you can buy. You can put it under the piers. Again, I would like to recommend to point out to you guys that there is some piers under the chassis, and there is pier also at the perimeter of the house to stabilize it even more. Remember, now the tiny house is a little bit more dangerous than manufactured home. I'm going to tell you why. Robin, want to say something? Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to point out to everyone that there is no lateral strapping that I see on this one. The piers seem to handle both the horizontal and the lateral strapping that would go on this thing, or do you have to add augers to this?
I have to add that strap also, Robin. That was not finished yet. Now, let me be honest on this straight again. The manufactured home is too wide to be stabilized, so sometimes we eliminate, not very much. We can reduce the number of the tie downs. For tiny homes, there is no way in heck. It's over my dead body if somebody asking me to be involved and not to the tie down. Why? The tie down is narrow and always higher. So it's narrower than the typical manufactured home, and also higher. especially if you have loft. So, yes, tie down will be added to what you see.
That's a good point that the bill is trying to point out, guys. And you know, a manufactured home, especially might have a single wide or a double wide, but they could be 12, 24 feet wide by, 40, 50, 60, 70 feet long. And so and they're only built 8 or 9 feet tall. And when you build a tiny house, you're only 8 foot or 8'6" wide, and you might be 13'6" tall, which is the maximum that you can get. So if you in a wind event, then obviously that's a lot of pressure broadside on that unit, and you need to have enough tie down system to hold that tiny house in place in the case of a wind event.
Absolutely, amen to that, Robin. Yes. So tiny house is a little bit more critical compared to manufactured home, and please be safe. Please let's all be safe. Then sorry. Here is what Robin was talking about. Here's the stack of blocks, and it's also in the base of fiberglass from the same company. So he is right that he can use the center block on fiberglass base. If you got tired of moving the tiny home, which is, by the way, people do, and sometimes you move it once or twice in 10 years, as people said, you can use also, if you'd like to use a stem wall, wood stem wall, and you can break it later if you want to. But this is also another option for you, and this doesn't seem like very hard to remove from your home. But it is you're leaning more on the permanent side rather than the temporary side. I want to let you know that I did design foundation, permanent foundation for one of the president of the tiny home companies. He himself, after he moved it for a few years, he got tired of moving tall, skinny home, and we designed very permanent foundation. As you can see, this is typical foundation we use for traditional buildings, and we did design permanent foundation for that president of tiny homes company, as you can see from concrete blocks and reinforcement now. There is also option for foundation for tiny home. Guys, look at that guy that's a manufactured home, but the guy wanted to park the car underneath. Also, sometimes we do that in a flood area that you need to raise your home to avoid the water. So I don't see why not, instead of this single wide manufacturer, why not it could be a tiny home. I want to just share with you, there is no more stacks without rebar anymore. Once you go up more than the normal, which is 30 inches or so, you are talking about reinforced concrete piers, columns. And I wrote it here so you don't get mixed up. Now we switch it to talk about serious business with serious rebar. If you'd like to go up like this one, some people would like to put it on concrete pier instead of masonry pier. That's also allowed. That's no problem. Again, it could be for the looks. You want to have. We have one guy on the coast that he wanted to raise his house higher so he can see more of the sea. So there is zillion of reasons. Seriously, zillion of reasons to have your house elevated. It's up to you. It's going to cost more, but it's available if you wanted to. Now, if you want to learn more about what I just mentioned, because I don't have time to mention a lot of things, because Robin on my case, and I've been traveled with him, but if you read that book, Permanent Foundation Guide for Manufactured Home, it is, guys, it is applicable to tiny home as well. This publication is free from HUD. If you go to HUD.gov, you can download this one for free, and you can enjoy it and read it. It's not an easy code, but it doesn't need crunching numbers, so you could use it yourself if you choose to, if you are really read it about 10 times or so. Additional, guys, there is also a book called Manufactured Home Installation Training Manual. You can find this one on the internet, or Guide to Anchor System Technical Support. It's also on the internet. and the guide to foundation support also. All these guys are available in the internet. These guys, I think you have to pay, but HUD usually is for free. That, to be honest with you, conclude everything. I would love to answer any question. If you can type it, I would greatly appreciate it. But also, in addition, I'm going to answer your question for free right now. I'm going to also offer 15 minutes free consultation later. If you would like to drop me an email, I'll be glad to answer your email. But right now I'm done, and welcome any question from the audience.
Well, thank you, Bill. I really appreciate, all that you've brought to the table here. I will start some things out either by comment or by questions. Obviously, when you are designing a foundation for a tiny house, one of the things that you were mentioning was that the distance between the piers needed to be 10 feet or less or more. And, that's a function of obviously the downward pressure, that's the weight that pier has to support. And so that might be something that you would need to engage an engineer to determine how far apart you needed to put your piers, unless they could be determined prescriptively, where, if you said, okay, if you put them for any tiny house, whether it's 8 foot wide, if you put your piers, I'm just pulling a number out of the air, 8 feet apart, then that will support, no matter what you put on there, up to 13 foot 6 tall. That would be more of a prescriptive type of a foundation. But if you wanted to do something special, for instance, we had one tiny house show that they brought a tiny house that had poured concrete walls, and they had to bring it in with a tractor trailer truck. And obviously there was a lot of weight involved in that tiny house. That type of situation, you would certainly have to have an engineer determine what the foundation would look like for that. So there's some calculations there. Can you confirm what I'm saying there, Bill, with that?
Robin, you're absolutely correct. We could definitely develop tables. Again, we say, for example, if the house is located in 100-mile-per-hour wind, and the height is such and such, here's the tie-down, typical tie-down that you can use. If for the same location, your house is not 10 foot high, it is 13.6, as Robin said, then here's the tie-down. Tables can be developed. I am unaware of any tables right now, Robin, but it could be developed. It's usually spendy. It's usually probably big manufacturers should pay for it, because now you are solving not one issue, you are solving about 100 issue or so for the size of for the tiny house, for the wind speed, for the seismic, and so on. But it could be done.
All right, so I'm going to write that down, that we could have some tables for hold downs and piers or supports, foundations, I guess. That's that's something that we might want to look into in a future date. Also, Bill, if you could stop sharing your screen, I would like to share my screen with some things on it. And I had some questions from last week too. So, but anybody,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, okay,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're trying to find the stop share. Well, I think Jordan found it a minute ago, so he could do that too. If
he can do that, because it does not show up on my end, Robin. When we start, it does not show up, so he can do that. Yes.
If you could do that, Jordan. While he's doing that, I wanted to address some of the questions that I had from the last time we got together, and I had them written down. Yeah, there they are. When we have a trailer manufacturer that builds trailers, do his trailers get engineered? Do you know, or does anybody know that these trailers are engineered by someone to be designed to support the loads that are put on them? Or how? That was a question, not necessarily for Bill, but for anybody that's out there that knows, that buys trailers. do you know that the trailer that you're buying to put your tiny house on will support that tiny house, and how do you know that?
For the houses that we did, tiny home we designed, Robin, we did check the trailer. It was not engineered; it was just fabricated. And sometimes we ask for increasing the size, and sometimes it came to be very good. But most of the people built it from experience rather than from engineering. And I won't put my name unless I engineer it. If it comes with engineered drawing and calculation, I'll take it. But if it doesn't have, and somebody did it from their own experience, I respect that. In many cases, is good. But my code of conduct of engineers that I have to verify everything. So we put it on the computer, we model it, and we see how it behaves. It's wonderful program, Robin. You can see the trailer sometimes deflect and move, and so we can see the movement under actual load. We can see the stresses. We can see the hot points and the cool points. The software is wonderful. I'd love to share it with you guys sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jordan, are you able to get the stop share button on this thing? I don't have control over this, so I can't. I don't see it. The other question that I had, and just as a general thing, we were talking earlier about different hold downs and hurricane strapping and clips and things like that. And you know, Simpson has a lot of different clips, and they also have screws and straps and things like that. And so when you're designing your tiny house, you have to think about not only the tie down to the foundation, but also all the way through to the roof system, your rafters and everything. And
yes.
Some people put a strap all the way across the whole thing, and some people just put clips. You know, Bill showed us a slide. He said this is the one that you hate to see, but where there's basically a strap that is nailed to the framing member of the home, and then the strap is connected to that, and that'll hold that stud and that plate and that trailer down, but it may not hold the roof on. So you have to continue that strapping all the way through the roof in order to make sure that in case of a hurricane, tornado, or wind event, that the rest of the structure will stay there.
You are absolutely correct, Robin. But sometimes we have a small strap from the roof to the, say, 1 foot of the stud at the top, and another strap from the last 1 foot bottom of the stud to the rim joist. That depends on the wind speed. But if you are very close to the ocean, it's very long strap from top to bottom. If you are away from the ocean, then we have 2 small straps, one at the top and one at the bottom.
Very good, very good. And that's what we do, guys, is depending upon the wind speed. I know in Florida here, you know, where I am, it's 140 miles per hour. However, if you get down into Dade County, it's 170 miles per hour that you need to build to. So it really depends where the home is going to end up, what the building code is for that area. And that might be another item, Leanne, that we might want to put on our data plate is, you know, what is the tiny house built to? Bill, we have a data plate that we put on our tiny houses, and we put on that data plate, you know, what standards or codes it was built to, what the R value of the walls, ceiling, and floors are. And we want to give as much information to the building code official that we can so that he can look at that home and say, yeah, I will allow that home to be placed in my jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's great. That's great way to do it, Robin. Yes.
All right, and you can do another thing which I've heard of, which is called the GoBolt system, where it's an all thread that goes from the bottom plate all the way through the top plate, and it bolts everything down. That's another system that I have heard of. And then there's the H2.5s and SP1s and SP2s that go on either the studs or the rafters, and that would be another strap that could be used in order to hold it down. And each one of these straps, if you go to the Simpson book will tell you what the capacity, load capacity is on that, the uplift or whatever. And finally, if you're using trusses, usually trusses are engineered so that, when you build with trusses, the engineer at the truss plant will tell you how to tie the trusses down to your walls. But most tiny houses that I've seen are not built with trusses, but I just wanted to mention that to everyone on there. Let me share my screen with everyone. And first thing I want to point out, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we do it.
Yes.
All right. This is the ANSI 119.5. This is the 209 edition, which is free online. I do have a copy of the other one. I just couldn't pull it up online. But here you can see the steel frame, prescriptive steel frames that they're calling out in the ANSI 119.5, and their main rails are 8-inch by 6.5 pounds I-beams. Can you explain to us what that is, Bill?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Robin?
It's an 8-inch by 6.5 pound I-beam.
Oh, yeah. Okay, just want to give a little bit note on the ANSI. ANSI is made for RVs, not necessarily for the homes, and the homes has more stringent value. But the 6 by something, usually the steel beam is titled by the depth and the weight of the steel. So you said 6 by what, Robin?
It's 8-inch by 6.5 pounds.
Yes. So 8 inches the depth, and the other one is the weight per foot. How many pounds?
There you
per
go.
Foot. So
there you go.
So you can buy it from the.
That's how they determine, the I-beam, the main rail for the for this prescriptive ANSI product, which yes is an RV. So basically, an 8-inch I-beam that is, if you cut one foot of it, it would weigh 6.5 pounds. Is what that means. And so if you're 33 feet long, then you would need an 8-inch beam that would be 33 feet long. And then it goes on to talk about the different cross members, which are 1.25 by 2-inch, an 1.25 inch, and they call 13 gauge, either C or Z sectional steel. Now, those are the cross members that are in between the main rails. And then the outriggers are 14 gauge, either Z steel sections with 1.25 inch, a minimum top and bottom flanges with 6-inch minimum depth at the main rails, and the spacing of the outriggers and the cross members are spelled out here, and depending upon whether they're longitudinal or not. And what I wanted to share with you is there's no tiny houses that I've ever seen that's built to these unless they're building a park model. This is what all park models are built to. And so if you go into the HUD code, what you're going to find is either a 10-inch or a 12-inch I-beam, and the number of pounds, maybe it's 6.5 pounds per foot. And so the main rail, there's 2 main rails are on there, and they tell you that these rails can't be any farther apart than 75 inches on this, not less than 75 inches apart. But there's no tiny houses that I see that are built to that standard. But here's something I think you sent to me, Bill. I don't know whether I got this from you or from somebody else, but here is a chassis that is engineered by someone. And let me see who. It doesn't say on who.
I think it is me. It does. That's our drawing, Robin. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, as you can see here, there and you can't really read it because I've got it expanded as far as I can, but in here it spells out that the main rails are 2-inch by 6-inch by 1/2 inch flat welded to the main rails. It actually spells out 2-inch by 6-inch tube steel on here for what he called main rail stringers, and what the center is for the stringers are 24 inches on center, I mean, everything is spelled out here on this and how it's going to be constructed. And this one, as you can see, number 4 is an L angle, and it spells out that it is what size L angle, what thickness of steel, and how it's welded to the main rail. So here is a trailer frame that is actually built for a tiny house on wheels. And I guess the thing I want to point out to everyone is this trailer frame is what I think they call it a drop axle trailer frame, trailer design, and it is lower to the ground. I don't see the inches. It's 1 foot. Let me make it bigger. Maybe I can read it. 1 foot 7 inches that's to the top of the, it's 2 foot 1 inch. So it's 25 inches to the top of this trailer here. And if you go with the other design with the 8-inch I-beam, you're going to be 36 inches to the top of that I-beam, where you're going to be putting your starting your floor system. So the point that I wanted to make with this, guys, and share with everyone is that this design for tiny houses is real, and it can be prescriptive, I think, so that each one doesn't have to be engineered, but it could be prescriptive, similar to what the mobile home industry or the ANSI product has. And that was my question for you, Bill. Can these tiny house trailers be designed prescriptively, so that we wouldn't have to engineer each one individually, or do we have to get every trailer engineered?
No, it could be prescriptive, Robin, but then the engineer has to cover so many cases. So when you have a prescriptive, you follow CYA, to be honest with you. Cover your buns. What do you mean by cover your buns? How about if somebody has a heavier a tiny house? Then you consider the heavy one. How about if somebody did a loft? Then you consider that you have a loft. So prescriptive, in order to secure the designer, he has to be conservative and make cases for the worst case scenario. Could it be prescriptive? Yes, it could be like you design dozen of them. You say, for this case, use this one, for this case, use this one, and so on. So I don't see why not it could be prescriptive.
I like that. I like that, Bill, because we talked about last week that it not only has to be constructed to set on a foundation, but it also has to be constructed to go down the road. And the forces on the axles and the tongue of the trailer are different from the forces on the piers that you put underneath of the trailer. So I think what Bill is saying is that, yeah, we can build it, but we're going to build it so that this house, it might be something like, okay, we'll build this prescriptive for homes that are built 8 foot wide, this prescriptive for homes that are 10 foot wide, this prescriptive one for those that are 12 feet wide, and it's 8 by 20, 8 by 24, so depending on the length and the width of the trailer. And then add to it that the worst case scenario would be that we're going to have 2x4 stud walls, which are heavier than steel, or we would go with, that's probably the heaviest one, would be 2x4s rather than SIPS panels or steel. And then we're going to add to it a double loft on it. And with that, we'll come up with the size of the main rails and the cross members and the outriggers based on worst case scenario. And unless you want to get your your individual trailer engineered to your custom built house, that would be a prescriptive design for a trailer for a tiny house.
It's true. That is true. Could be done. I mean, we've done it, Robin, we've done it for so many other, for example, domes. Domes we use for marketing and event in many cases. So we developed a table for domes, for example. If you use it in Florida, use the size of the dome and size of member. if you use it in Chicago and you have more snow, use this one. So the answer is yes, somebody just have to put the time and effort and money to pay for the hour to develop these tables.
And it might be the trailer manufacturer that's going to make money off of the trailers. So if the trailer manufacturer, it's kind of like, if you think about it, all the different ways to support a manufactured home. There's the people that design those supports are the one that pay for the engineering to say, okay, yeah, you can use a cinder block pier, but you can also use, you know, these screws and these anchors and the different designs that they have out there. Well, they pay for the design of those. And so a trailer manufacturer could say, okay, I'm going to engineer my trailers to support those, and I'm going to pay for that engineering. But once that engineering is done, that prescriptive design is done, then that is proof positive that that floor system will support the worst case scenario tiny house that you could put on.
True. I would say yes, manufacturer will be the way to do it. If they have good volume, they can support it, yes.
Otherwise, who's going to pay for it? You know, the DIYer is not going to pay for it. You know, he's building one, and they're trying to save as much money as possible. So,
True.
yeah,
Robin, it's just amazing that if you buy a ready-made tiny house, it costs about 100 something thousand, which is made for people who have limited resources. So, but it is what it is. If you don't build it yourself, you will wind up with that high price.
absolutely. Well, Leanne, if we don't have any further questions for Bill, that's all the questions that I had. Oh no, I had one more question. On the tiny house, many of them have lofts, and the lofts they're trying to support it with the thinnest floor system that they can possibly come up with. Usually it's a 4x4 or a double 2x4 or something like that. I haven't even seen some 2-inch by 2-inch tube steel that's used for that loft. Oh. He's shaking his head over there. So that is something that we would need a prescriptive design for, I think, from an engineer to say this is how you could design your loft. It's been tested that a 4x4, 16 inches on center will span your 7 foot 4 inches, which is the interior wall of an 8 foot wide tiny house. It would be nice that we have header tables in IRC, and we have spans of floor joists and ceiling joists. It would be nice to have something that would be a table for the floor joists for a loft.
I don't see a problem. That's an easy one, Robin. The reason it's easy one because there are not many variable in the loft. It's usually about 5 foot or less, and usually used for sleep. So a table for the loft joists will be very easy due to the fact that you don't have too many variables there. Wind is not going to affect it. Seismic is not going to affect it. Activity might affect it, if you know what I mean, but it's usually limited.
All right. I want to write that down too. Floor of the loft.
Don't write the activity. I meant bad things, so don't write this one.
Well, those are things that need to be done, need to be accomplished.
That is right.
Some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was my last question, guys. Leanne, if nobody else has any questions, then I will turn it back over to you.
We do have a question on Sean, who is in California, wants to know, Bill, what your opinion is on the Iron Eagle pad trailers.
Yes, we used it. Actually, I shared it because we used it, and it was very good. So just to check if they have different sizes to fit your needs, and also the strength. I highly recommend it because we checked it. So it's a good idea that you have somebody to check it rather than get it right away. and use it, because in some cases it's not, nobody crunched a number on it yet, but they are good company. But if you use it without somebody crunch number and check it, you are on your own. If you'd like to make sure, just send it and we'll check it for you for a minimum fee.
There you go.
There you go, Sean.
Yep.
All right, anybody else have any questions, comments? Thank you. How you guys got a lot out of this? Key Codes Inspection says, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
If there's no more questions,
Thanks for having me, by the
will-
way. Thanks for giving me the chance,
Oh.
Robin and Leanne. Thank you very much.
No,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
all honored. We're honored to have you for sure. It's our pleasure.
absolutely.
Let me
Yes,
know if you
yes.
have other event, Robin and Leanne. We'll be glad to enjoy some talk with you guys.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bill. Really,
Thank you so
thanks
much.
for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us 2 Tuesdays in a row. I got a lot out of it. I
My pleasure.
will
My
have to
pleasure.
study it too. I'll be
My
building
pleasure.
my own trailer soon.
All right, here you go.
And yeah, Wednesday, tomorrow night, we will have Scott Banta, and he'll be continuing his education on what all is involved in building a tiny house village. And it has been quite an education. You guys can still catch up with those in our member portal. And with that, if there's no more questions, I just want to say have a great evening, great afternoon, wherever you are. We'll see you tomorrow. And thank you so much for everyone joining us. Have a good
night.
evening.
Leanne. Okay. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Bill.
Thank you. Have a good